Hey friends, it's Gerald and it's good to be making a video after a long break. I miss you guys, I hope you guys miss me, I hope. And let's get started with some of the juiciest stock market as well as crypto news of this week. I just want to kind of chit chat about them and laugh a little and try to understand what's going on. So let's start with one big news of the week, which is that the yen actually fell below 150 to a US dollar, which is like the lowest since 1990. And when they say fall, it means up, you know what I mean? Meaning $1 can now exchange for a lot more yen. And this news has been getting investors very worried globally. And I don't understand, like when I see yen being cheap, like the ringgit becoming more, I think holiday, right? So it took me a while to research and understand. Actually, the Tokyo stock market is the 6th largest stock exchange in the world. So it's actually very influential. A lot of money is in there. And when it falls very rapidly in terms of the currency, right? Businesses suffer big time. Not just businesses, the small businesses and the local people suffer too. So in fact, big global businesses or Japanese companies that bring a lot of do a lot of business globally, they actually benefit because they earn in external currencies, they remit back, and boom, they're rich. But small companies who import a lot of stuff from overseas, as well as individuals in Japan, they're dying because fees relative to everything else is just rising very, very quickly. And according to many analysts, they expect this trend to continue because of one key reason: interest rate. You see, the US is constantly increasing interest rates because they have an inflation problem, right? Whereas Japan has the opposite problem. They have a deflationary problem. So that's why they keep interest rates low. But if you want to put your money in fixed deposit, would you put it in a Japanese bank where it's 0%? Or would you put it, change it to a US dollar bank where it increases practically every quarter? So it's a no-brainer, you would sell the yen and put it in US dollars. And so that's why the currency is moving a lot. But to my friends in Japan, fear not, because a lot of us Singaporeans are thinking of investing in a trip in Japan. In another news, the chip wars between China and US has escalated further, primarily from the US side this time around. Basically, Joe Biden just said, we're gonna further restrict the US chip makers and Chinese chip makers from doing businesses together. In fact, now they've gone so far to not just restrict import-exports, they are also restricting manpower. Right, it's going to be a lot harder to enter into China's semiconductor industry if you're an American, which kind of shocks the world. But if you think about it, Singapore kind of have, foreign workers levy since like 1987. So I don't know, it's a big global news because chip making is a big industry. So a lot of the big chip making companies in the US, they're going to suffer big time. So that's why it's a big news. But to me as a Singaporean, when I see, foreign worker levy, in fact, you want to classify the passes and make it even harder. So then it's been around for a while in Singapore. So I'm not so shocked at this news. But it's interesting to note how this has led to a rise in nationalism. One step up, right? So it's not just restricting product, it's also restricting manpower, talent, and that makes it very scary for people who are trying to work overseas, right? Because if every country starts thinking that way, hey, where's my opportunity to migrate abroad and start, working overseas? So in the past quarter, the interest rate news has been hitting the headlines because interest rates in Singapore, in the US, in fact most countries in the world, have been rising very steadily to fight inflation. And when you keep hammering the same news over and over and over again, people get bored. So what happens is that now people are starting to talk another topic that is kind of related but not related to interest rates, and that is when the Fed will U-turn and reduce the interest rates. That's right, they're speculating it's going to be December, but I think a lot of YouTubers are pretty pessimistic that's going to happen. Anyways, the whole point is that we are expecting, a lot of people are expecting interest rates to rise very rapidly till the end of the year and then cool off somewhat. But the fact is that nobody knows what's going to happen, and yet everybody wants to kind of speculate and catch the market bottom, which is counterproductive, but it's not so boring, right? And that's most of the global financial news that have interested me this week that I've read. So now let's move over to crypto news, which were a lot more interesting in my opinion. Or rather, it is funnier. So the top news, one of the top news for this week is that Bitcoin failed to produce one block in over 85 minutes. And that left 13,000 transactions hanging. That's right. Bitcoin went into maintenance just like our DBS Bank or our WhatsApp or even our Facebook sometimes, and people were shocked. And that became like global news. You know, Bitcoin took a break. Typically it takes 10 minutes, which is really long, to send a transaction. Now it took 85 minutes, and then it became, everybody was so scary. I tried to understand, why are people so scared? Like, is Bitcoin hacked or anything like that? Apparently no. People were just scared for it being slow. And if you were, I mean, logically, if they were scared of it being slow, then why not just use Pay Now, which is instantaneous in Singapore? That being said, when I tried to dig deeper in the news, one huge contributing factor to why that happened was because there were too many miners, and the blockchain was not difficult enough. So that's why the programmers or the developers, I'm not sure who actually did it, they decided to tweak and increase the difficulty of the blockchain in the Bitcoin network to prevent that from happening. That's right, the more people mining, it makes the transaction slower. Kaboom! Mind blown. Stop mining Bitcoin if you want your transactions to be faster. Or you can just use Pay Now if you want it like immediately, right? And last but not least, there have been growing speculation amongst my members, my community, as well as a couple of news articles about Crypto.com being in danger, like financial danger. Why? The first one is people have started to point out, you know, the CEO of Crypto.com, Chris, how do I pronounce his word? Marzalak, has a very interesting past. So basically, he was previously a CEO of a coupon company, kind of like Groupon in Asia, which is listed on the Australian stock market, and it went bankrupt, and a lot of suppliers lost money. Basically, they framing it as though he's like a scammer. That's one. So the company name is Ensogo. So I'm going to just list out the name over here so you can see, check it out for yourself. And apart from that, there have been news of liquidity issues or cash flow issues or challenges within the company. But no one has concrete proof. I tried to find concrete proof and I couldn't find any, except for the fact, according to Ad Age, I'm not sure if there's conflict of interest here, they reported that Crypto.com reportedly fired 40% of its workforce. So they had 5,000 employees. They cut down 2,000, so now they have 3,000, which is phenomenal by any means. Both the number of people fired as well as the number of employees left, which is really scary. Like in the short span of 1 year, 40% of people were like, you know, kicked out. But it's unclear whether these are contractors, right? So contractors, you usually do business when you have business. So if you don't have business, you kind of cut them out. So I'm not sure if they're employees, but this is kind of scary because if you reduce headcount, it's a bad sign that the company is not growing or not doing well financially. But what's even more interesting is that, you know, Crypto.com used to make this big crazy advertisement throughout like the world. They bought over a stadium, the Staples Stadium. They named it, you know, the Crypto.com Stadium. They did a Super Bowl ad. They even in Singapore advertised throughout, you know, Harbourfront, which I took a video of, which is beautiful. Like, oh, fortune favors the bold, right? That was the tagline. And recently, they actually pulled out from a $495 million sponsorship of UEFA Champions League. So they pulled out, and they also retracted other sponsorship deals with Los Angeles-based soccer team Angel FC, and they also pulled out sponsorship with Gerald Ong Media, which is not so important, and also of course they pulled out their ads from Singapore like Harbourfront MRT. Of course, again, people are going to speculate the reason why they pulled out is because they have no money, but it's unclear. But of course, as an investor, you know, if you have money in Crypto.com, you should be wary because this kind of news does affect market sentiment, and if everyone is pessimistic of the company, it can create a lot of trouble for your money. Crypto.com also cut back on its cashbacks, which made everyone unhappy and want to cash out. And if you're one of those brave souls thinking that fortune will favor the bold you that is still holding on to Crow token, well, Crow token went from 98 cents at its peak to as low as 11 cents according to the news article. But as of today, I just checked, it was 10.5 cents. So it's even lesser. I'm not sure if it's bold to kind of hold on and accept almost a 80-90% loss if you cash out. So it's really scary times. I hope Crypto.com can get through this trouble, but it's something worth thinking very carefully about to understand, is Crypto.com really in trouble? If you know anything, let me know in the comment section below. I would love to know if I should cash out my money in Crypto.com. I still hold a very small portion, but it makes me a bit scared, right, if Crypto.com is in danger. So with that said, I hope you like this kind of simple sharing format. It doesn't take too much time to discuss top news of the week and kind of poke fun and enjoy ourselves because it's a process, so let's enjoy it, right? With that said, that's it. Join my community if you haven't already. Let me know what you think. And I was thinking of covering interesting Singaporean topics, like Yishun flat that rented out for Yishun flat that was sold for $1 million, and HDBs that I think Hougang or Boon Keng HDB was rented out for $4,600, and there was a lot of envy regarding that. So I would love to talk about these topics. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and I'll see you next time. Take care, everyone.